John, it's March 2014. You're coming to the end of an administrative year, but probably a 2-year period with elections coming up. Looking back on the 2 years, are you pleased with the achievements that you have made?
I think it's been a really interesting couple of years for Thurrock, and I think that it's been 2 years where the borough has really started to deliver. So if you think about London Gateway Port, the first berth is now open, there are now ships coming in there bringing goods in. If you go to the other end of the borough, Lakeside have now got their big planning application in. We look forward to seeing proper leisure being provided at Lakeside and an expansion of the shopping centre. If you go to the High House Production Park, a couple of years ago, the Royal Opera House production facility was open, but that was all really that was there. You've now got the Backstage Centre, which is the National Skills Academy for Cultural and Creative Industries. That's the place in the country, the only place in the country where youngsters can get trained in those back of stage crafts, things like lighting and sound engineers, those kind of skills that this country still leads the world in. And that's the only place in the United Kingdom where you can get trained other than doing it in a theatre on the job. And to have that in the borough is absolutely fantastic. There are kids there now that are learning those skills that are going to stay with them for life. Also on the same site now we have the 40-odd artists' studios, some of them live-work studios, and about a third of those artists that are there are local. They're people from Thurrock who are now working and plying their trade in Thurrock. They're a community that are growing there that we didn't even know that we had. We've now done the deal with the Royal Opera House, with help from the council with some funding and European funding, to bring the Royal Opera House costume store onto the same site. Now again, that's incredibly exciting to have those costumes that would have been worn by people such as Nureyev or Pavlova, all those kind of dancers, but also that's where they will be making the costumes for the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden in a couple of years. The really exciting thing about that for me though is that we've managed to do a deal with South Essex College and other education providers to get bespoke honours degrees in costume design and costume creation that will be here in Thurrock, the only place in the country that people will be able to get those degrees. And we're talking about something like 18 a year. So again, a fantastic opportunity for local young people, and that's what really excites me. So I think you look back over the way that the borough has changed and grown, the opportunities that are here now that weren't here 2 years ago, and I think you can clearly see an exciting future, and we've delivered. We're here in Grays, opposite this building. We have South Essex College new campus, which is almost finished. That will be finished in June, handed over to the college for fitting out, and students will be going there in September. So a really, really busy couple of years with lots and lots of really positive stuff.
I know you might say I'd have to ask them, but would a Tory leader have done exactly the same things? And I guess what I'm going to ask is, over the last 2 years, what has marked you out as a Labour leader of Thurrock Council?
Well, I think you've asked two different questions. Would the Conservatives have done the same? Clearly, in part, yes, but in parts, no. If you look at the costume store, the Royal Opera House costume store, the Conservatives opposed that. They called it in. The leader of the Conservative group said that it was a waste of money. There is a clear difference there. They would not have supported that. What marks us out as a Labour authority? We've done things over the last couple of years, like started building council homes. We'll build 200 council homes this year, the first time in a generation that we've built any kind of meaningful homes. We've agreed the funding now to start what we're calling Gloriana, a wholly owned housing company that will see the council start building homes, not only for rent, but homes that will be for sale as well. For sale in things like shared equity, so that people that can't afford to get on the housing ladder will have the opportunity to get on the housing ladder. We've introduced the living wage for all council employees, again, something that the Conservatives didn't support. I think it's things like that that mark us out as being different. It's things like that that mark us out as being a Labour administration. Those things wouldn't have happened under the Conservatives.
So next month, you're going to go into another election cycle with elections on May the 22nd. What do you think will be the issues that will confront you on the doorsteps from Aveley to Fobbing?
I think the big issue will be the rising cost of living. What we're getting on the doorsteps already are people saying that their train fares are going up, that their food bills are going up, that the price of gas and electricity is going up, that their price of childcare is going up. People are really hurting. Yes, there is an economic recovery, but it seems to be a recovery for the few, not for the many. That's why I'm really proud, actually, that we managed to find a little extra cash so that we could freeze the council tax this year. you have to compare that, going back to your previous question, to 6 years of a Conservative administration where they put the council tax up by over 200 quid a year.
Do you feel there's an element of, I don't know if you've beaten them down or whatever, say from compared 2 years ago when it come to budget setting and there was lots of shenanigans about 90 minutes before the council meeting. Now there seems to be much more element of cooperation, but do you feel do you feel that in the room? Do you feel there's much more cooperation?
Yeah, I think, Mark, it's something I've said before. We always focus on areas of conflict. Actually, on 90-odd% of things, Conservative and Labour agree. And I think that it's a sign of a mature authority, an authority that's more mature than it was 3 or 4 years ago, that actually we've found a way of maximising those areas of agreement, minimising the areas of disagreement, so that things run more smoothly. And the other thing that people do need to remember is that we set the parameters of this year's budget a year ago. In effect, we set a 2-year budget, which meant that this year the arguments, the rows were always going to be minimised. And I pay some credit to the opposition for joining in with the spirit of that and making sure that we held to it and making sure that it worked.
Where are we going with the Lower Dartford crossing? Do you think, where do you think we are right now?
Well, I think we're in a state of limbo. Secretary of State has said it won't be option B, but it will be option A or C. We certainly won't have any further announcement until after the local and European elections at the back end of May. I think the announcement then will be, this is the corridor that we decide. If it's C, they will then say there are possibly 3, 4, 5 routes maybe that run sort of through that avenue of C, through that corridor of C. So I think that we are in a stage where we have some years left of real uncertainty. And what we know is that that's doing real damage to local businesses that can't make investment decisions because frankly they don't know if they're going to have the land. If it's option C, you have companies that may wish to expand that won't be able to because they'll be confined by a piece of national infrastructure. The same in A. And we've also got residents who frankly don't know whether they should be moving home, don't know if they can move home. It's, as I say, it really is a state of limbo that is doing real damage to both the economy here in Thurrock and to local residents.
Do you think on the doorstep you might hear people concerned about the green belt? I know you don't want to talk about specific planning applications, but from Aveley to Fobbing, there seems to be something on the table that could affect what the people look out to from their back window. Do you think those will be concerns expressed?
There'll be concerns expressed in some areas. If you look at Heath Place, for instance, in Chadwell, that's a planning application that's coming to committee next week. Councillor Barbara Rice has been at the forefront of opposing that from day one. In fact, since before the application was received. It's recommended for refusal. I'm fairly confident that the Planning Committee will refuse it next week, and if they do, it will be in no short measure due to the work that Barbara Rice has put into opposing this, alongside really active and committed residents.
You worried about UKIP?
I'm not worried about UKIP. No, I think UKIP have a perfectly valid viewpoint of anti-European, saying that we should be out of Europe, and I think that's a debate that we should enter into a little more freely than we have in the past. Michael, you know my view. I am moderately pro-European, but I do think that we should have a referendum on the issue, and that should be a straight in-out referendum. People of my age have never had the opportunity to have their say. You have to be something like 56 years of age to have ever been asked your view on it. I just think that is simply anti-democratic, that we should have the referendum and then move on. I think the referendum would be, the outcome of the referendum would be to stay in Europe, and it would probably lance it for another generation.
I think what I meant though is that Nigel Farage packed out Allsop Hall on Wednesday night in a private audience, so to speak, and it could be in this fertile area that you could end up on May the 22nd and that on that Thursday night with 7-8 UKIP councillors. What would your reaction to that be?
I don't think that's going to happen, Michael. Would be my immediate.
People said that in 2004 and you ended up with a big Tory majority, didn't they?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. I don't think we're going to wake up to a UKIP group on Thurrock Council of 6 or 7. There is no doubt at all that UKIP will polled pretty heavily. I think that they will take a lot of votes from the Conservatives. They will take some votes from Labour. But in the wards that we currently hold, I don't see any danger of UKIP taking those seats. We're not going to wake up with 6 or 7 UKIP councillors in Thurrock on May 23rd.
You have a number of portfolios, but you've taken on education, and you're very bullish about education, aren't you? Do you think you're right to place your confidence and faith in the way that you do?
Yeah, I do. Because that confidence and faith is based on my experience of going around to schools, of seeing head teachers, of talking to teachers, of seeing what's actually going on in the classroom. And you go into those schools, you can almost feel the improvement that's happening. Now, you look at our secondary schools have 80% of the children in those schools are in schools that are good or outstanding. That's the best anywhere in the east of England. And if you look at the local enterprise partnership area, which includes Kent, Essex, East Sussex, they're the best performing schools in those areas too. For too long, our primary schools have lagged behind. Our primary schools are improving at a remarkable rate. If you go back to 2010, when we took this administration, it was, I think, 33% of our children in primary schools were in good or outstanding. In fact, there wasn't a single outstanding primary school. You come forward to today, it's up at 59%. So we are making progress. It's not progress at the pace that I would like to see it. I won't be satisfied until every school is good or outstanding, but we're making real progress, and we are getting there remarkably quickly. And that speed of progress has been recognised by Ofsted, who in their annual report singled Thurrock out to say that we were making really rapid progress.
Moving on to the secondaries, wouldn't it be great if, building on the success of Harris Academy, Trafford 100, that they had a second Harris Academy in the west of the borough? That would be a great thing, building on their proven track record of success, wouldn't it?
But there are other schools that have a proven track record of success across the borough. You can't get fixated on any one school. Every child in the borough deserves the very best standard of education that we can give them. It's the job of the council in this new modern age of academies to make sure that we need to look at a particular pressure in one part of the borough. The first thing we do is to look at whether the existing schools there could expand to create more places, and then we'd look at whether it's actually a new school that's needed. Because you have to remember that if you create a new school somewhere in Thurrock, it would almost inevitably mean that another school, another good school, would be under pressure to close. That wouldn't be fair on the young people attending that school, wouldn't be fair on the people teaching in that school, wouldn't be fair on that community. We have to be absolutely fair to all.
And finally, regarding education, a very thorough Education Commission report, and very much a commitment to look at it and analyse it and work upon it. But somewhere on the bottom of one of the pages is that statistic that less than 2% of all students get 2 A's and a B at A level. And I've heard very little discussion about that, and surely that's the key stat that the whole borough should be working on. You know, that this figure that is the national average is 8%. Is there any discussion, and how? And if there has, what's the discussion been, and how can that be solved?
Of course, there's been discussion about that. One of the things that has happened over the last few years, of course, in Thurrock, we've moved from having one sixth form provider in Palmer's to a number of providers. I really believe that kind of competition for places will drive up standards, and it will drive up standards relatively quickly too. You've also got to remember that you go back again to 2004, and it was something like 40% of our secondary schools were good or outstanding. That is now 80%. It's those young people that will now be feeding through into those sixth forms that will be getting those improved A-level results.
Do you enjoy what you do?
Yeah, I love it. It's an absolute privilege to do it, Michael. You know, Thurrock is a fantastic place. It's the place that I've lived for most of my life. It's the place I choose to live now, choose to bring my kids up in. And I think it is the most exciting place in the United Kingdom to be at the moment. I talk to other councillors from all parties and all across the country. The amount that we have going on, if they had lakeside expansion, they'd be happy. If they had a new college and a magistrates court being turned into a business centre, they'd be happy. If they had the Port of Tilbury expansion that we've got creating 1,000 jobs, they'd be happy. If they had London Gateway, they'd be happy. If they had High House Production Park, they'd be really pleased. If they had what is potentially going to happen or perfectly happening, they'd be delighted. You put all of those things together, and there is not another authority, not another area anywhere in the country that has so much potential and so much going on. Anybody that's sitting where I am doing the job that I'm doing doesn't think that's fantastic, frankly, should move aside and let somebody else do it.
John Kent, thank you very much for your time.